everybody? Clinton Foshee here, and
I'm Albert Chavez.
And this is Front Porch Chronicles, and I'm super stoked. We have an up-and-comer, hot take fighter, Kevin Sweet Pea Pease on today. Thank you so much, brother, for taking the time to come on. We appreciate you. I like the shades.
Thank you, brother. I'm just grateful for y'all having me out here. So,
no doubt.
It looks sunny out there in Memphis, Tennessee. It looks beautiful. Dang, it looks like it's out here in Southern California.
good southern weather, the southern heat, blue skies, all that great stuff.
Except for the humidity. I moved out to Southern. I'm originally from Alabama, but okay. I moved out to SoCal. How long ago?
8 years ago?
Like 8-9 years ago. And I never realized that I've become California-fied a little bit until I go home and that humidity hits me and I'm like, oh Lord.
It helps with the weight cuts.
I always start with a 2-week trip and then that humidity hits me and I'm like, I might need to cut this to a week and a half, maybe even a week.
I was about to say, the way you guys eat out there too, it's got to balance it out too with the weight cut. Because man, I got family in Alabama too, actually, Jacksonville. Never been to Memphis before, but I heard you guys got good food too. And man, the buffets you guys have out there is awesome. The food, the Southern fried chicken, the biscuits and gravy. Oh my God, I can't. And the peach cobbler to finish it off.
Well,
I can't get enough of it.
There's a place in Memphis that I ate, man, probably 10, 15 years ago. I don't even know if it's probably open. It's called like Cucamonga's or something. And bro, they have this hamburger that is like a pizza-sized hamburger. And then they have this mudslide, which is all this ice cream and stuff. And my daughter at the time, she was probably 11, and she was like, ooh, let's get that ice cream. She ate about 1/4 of it. She was over there breathing hard like Baby D. She was like, Dad, I don't know if we can do this. I said, okay, well, we done paid $48. I'm going to eat this one way or the other. So,
all that food makes us strong, so we got to keep eating it.
I always tell people they don't know nothing about that Southern strength. I always get a hold of people and they're like, man, you use testosterone? Bruh, that's Southern strength, bruh. We're built different. There's a reason why the NFL, the NBA, and everything else is full of Southern athletes because we're about 100%. That life.
100%.
So we wanted to get to know a little bit more about Kevin. One of the reasons we started this podcast, as I told you, is kind of get to know a little bit more about the fighters and their background and how they got to where they are. So where are you originally from?
I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I was born here at Methodist downtown, and I grew up about 5 minutes from there. And I've traveled all over the world and the country, but I've always rest my head and come home to Memphis, Tennessee.
Home is always where the heart is.
Yeah.
Especially for folks in town too. That's awesome. What can you tell us a little bit what it was like growing up in Memphis, Tennessee?
Yeah. So I was raised by a single mother. She worked extremely hard. She was a nurse practitioner, and then she became an entrepreneur and started her own business, Well Child. And they go into the school systems and do physicals and eye exams and all that to help out the kids. So I'm very proud of her for doing that, and I kind of grew up around that business as well. I actually just got back from Nashville doing some help with that. But so I grew up with her and grew up in the Central Gardens area, nice area of town. My home that I grew up in is about 100 years old, so one of those big old Southern houses, which was scary as a kid, with all the creaks and stuff.
Yeah.
But just grew up around there, and big family, diverse family, because I'm mixed. So I get a little bit of everything and see a little bit of on all sides. And she just always pushed me to be as smart as I can and as emotionally intelligent as I can be and as cultured, and always to learn from other people, and no matter where they're from or what religious background they are, and just try to take something from everybody and She raised me to be a spiritual individual, a God fearing person, and all that kind of led me into MMA eventually. So I'm very happy with how I was raised, and I do believe God was very intentional with the path He put me on.
Wow.
That's awesome. Especially like you said, it eventually led you to MMA. How did you? We always do a little bit of research right before, especially with new people that we never met before. Like, how did you end up getting into MMA? When did you decide like, hey, this is for me?
So I started wrestling my freshman year of high school. Um, I went to a boarding school up north called Northfield Mount Hermon for my freshman year, and they took wrestling very seriously in the Northeast. I moved back home probably my sophomore year, and I met a coach named Jeremy Bartley, and we just had a lot of one-on-one time. He was a Division II wrestler, and I wrestled like lackadaisically, kind of. I would compete, but I wasn't really focused. And he
Yeah.
completely changed my mindset, completely changed me as an athlete, and really had me setting high goals for to be a state champion and a region champion. Um, with someone with my experience level, it was never kind of unheard of. And so I started pursuing those goals. Um, like it was a life or death thing for me. I changed my whole life to try to accomplish those things. I fell short of being a state champion. I ended up getting third, but the amount of growth I had from being like a JV guy to being on varsity to being a championship contender, um, I knew what I had was special, and I kind of got discouraged because I started going to college. But I had such a competitive fire that I felt like I never got to see my full potential. Um, and I was out one night and I ran into Jaleel Willis. He was a Bellator fighter, an LFA
Yeah.
champion. We just fought on the same card together. And he said, "Hey, man, like, come in and help me with my wrestling a little bit." And at this point, I had like dreadlocks. I was like 217 pounds. Like, I'd just been partying and not working out at all. And I was, happy to. And we trained together, and then he invited me to come to V3 Fights, which was a big show in our area that used to be around. Bryce Mitchell
Yeah.
came from there.
Yeah. I
Um,
remember.
so he was fighting Nolan Norwood for the belt that night, and I just watched the lights, the production, how like intimate it was between the fighters and the fight and the crowd. And then I just watched the fighters competing, and I'm like, man, these guys can't even wrestle like that. They don't look like insane athletes that I never seen before. And I just got really motivated, and I was like, man, I want to do this. I really want to get into this. So about a year of training, I ended up getting my first fight, and I dropped out of college to do it, and my mom was so pissed at me. She's like, "What are you doing? You're fighting in a
She's like, I
cage.
worked
Like,
this hard for you.
this is horrible."
Yeah.
And I ended up getting a TKO in like under a minute. And so then she was like, "Man, you do have a knack for this, just like wrestling." And it was off to the races from there.
Wow.
That's funny. We always ask, does she go to any of your fights? Does any of your family members go and
She
support?
missed the first one she ever missed was in Atlantic City when I fought CJ LaFregola. Um,
Yeah.
but she's been at every single one of them. She's super invested. She's always made sure, always pushed me to be like, maybe you need to go train here. You're having problems with this. We need to figure this out.
Oh,
If you're not
wow.
developing in this area, let's find a great coach to help you with this. So she's always been right there with me, mapping out my career, watching fights together, watching the competition with me. So she's always been super involved in built me a gym at my house so I can fly people in and train with them there. So she's always pushed me to be my best, and whatever I needed to develop, she's been there with me.
Man, they sound like they broke the mold when they made your mama.
Yeah, she's
I
different.
can't
She's
find them.
different. She's different, man. She's a special kind of woman.
Yeah, that's amazing and awesome that y'all have that relationship, but that also she supported and invested in you wholeheartedly. That's super dope. Super
Yeah,
dope.
especially
So
I'm blessed.
especially yeah,
yeah,
especially she's like, okay, it wasn't a part of the plan originally, but all right, you have enough enough
pizzazz.
pizzazz to like be like, okay, like I know I believe in my son, I want him to succeed, and then she goes full in and just wants to support you 100%. That's mom of the year, mom of the century
I
for
know,
sure. Damn.
right? Woo.
I'm a big history guy, and so I always read about like guys like Alexander the Great and
Yeah,
Napoleon, and especially like Napoleon. Like he didn't really come from anything special, but his mom always told him how special he was, and always pushed him to be his best, and whatever she had to make happen for them and build them up mentally. She did that, and I always felt like I related to those guys in history because my mom was the same way, you know.
that's super dope.
Crazy. Yeah,
So
that's awesome. So you talked about a little bit with the TKO and stuff like that too. When did it finally click for you that you could actually do something like this professionally and like make it a lifestyle, not just something that's just a hobby?
Um, I always knew I could be a professional fighter just because, like, literally anybody can be a professional fighter. You just have to say, get a promoter to put you on a card and say you want to be professional and you can go for it. But I wanted to, like, really take my time with the sport. I really wanted to develop. I really wanted to be, like, understand it through and through. And there's so many, like, facets of MMA and little meta games within the game. I really wanted to take my time and learn everything about that. And so I took my amateur career seriously. Like I've always trained like twice a day, studied loads of film, and with that same token, I've always just taken it one fight at a time, preparing for one opponent at a time, um, getting through the camp properly, building skills through the camp, and then fighting itself, and then learning from that fight and using that to take me into the next one. So I had two fights before I fought on Dana White looking for a fight. He came to Memphis, and that was my
yeah,
first title fight. Two fights in, and from there, I think I had championship fights throughout my amateur career, like maybe five or six championship fights, two different weight classes. So I was always testing myself with all the best competition as an amateur, going to different states and fighting their best guys. And in that time doing that, I would travel to different gyms. I spent a lot of time in Milwaukee with Rufus Sport. I spent a good deal of time in San Jose at AKA, and I was just always trying to find the best fit for me, where I felt like I could grow and develop and learn and have the best partners and coaches. And before my first pro debut, I took a trip down to Killcliff, and that's where I felt the most at home. And in that environment. I was like, man, I could really become a world champion here.
I agree. I deal with a ton of guys, and I'll be honest with you, and I'm not gonna gas you up. I'm always brutally honest. Your calculated mindset and detail oriented, just in even the way that you're speaking, I honestly am like mind blown how far ahead of the curve that you are is amazing. So let me ask you this: what is it that you love most about MMA?
Um, there's a couple things, but one of the best things is like I love the diversity of the sport. Like growing up as a mixed kid, like there's not like too many places that you fit in all the way completely. And the best thing about like MMA is you can completely be yourself. And it doesn't matter if you're like a Jamaican, a Russian, a Brazilian, if you're tall, you're short, what weight class, what your spiritual belief is. If you work hard and believe in yourself and show your greatness, the whole world can learn to see you for what you are. And, just studying the sport as I went my way through it and seeing, I saw the rise of Conor McGregor and Khabib and, all sorts of guys just coming and going and fighting in different ways, using different styles, different backgrounds. Um, that's just what really attracted me into loving the sport and loving the fighters and just loving everything about the game. And I just always wanted to shoot to make my own mark on it. and leave my own mark in the sport.
Wow. Yeah, my oldest daughter is biracial, and then my three youngest kids. So I've got four biracial. So I completely know, and especially in Memphis,
Yeah.
let's just be real. When you said that, like I could feel that in my soul because you never like it was difficult for me as a parent because I can see, and I come from Alabama, so I can see when people are looking a certain way
Hmm.
over here or looking a certain way over here. So I can see, and I'm glad you found something that kind of gave you peace and that you felt like you could be yourself and wholeheartedly with. Speaking of diversity, we know you train at Killcliff FC, legendary. With Jared Gordon, we had on yesterday. We had Linton Vassell on as well. You also got beasts like Gilbert Burns, Michael Chandler, RoboCop, Robbie Lawler, Vicente Luke. Brad, we could sit here all day and literally name off like a whole squad that I would want if there was a zombie apocalypse. But, how do you think? I know you said you've trained other places and stuff like that. How do you feel like Killcliff helped you elevate your game?
It's like the combination of a couple things. Like our coaches always tell us, like a place is only as good as the people, and we have great people there. We have a great coaching staff, with Henry Hoof and Greg Jones and Saeed and Nick Lentz and Dieter and Sean Soriano and all those guys. And then we have great athletes across many weight classes. I personally was drawn to the athletes because most of them are around the 170-pound range. Um, so great people for one, and then two, the culture of the gym. I think it's like the perfect combination of MMA, of hard and smart. Some places either are too hard and not enough smart, or too smart and not enough hard. And our coaches really make the environment hard, but everybody can get better and keep growing as well. And we can focus on all the areas of the game, whether it's grappling and wrestling or striking. Um, we kind of can are allowed to grow in all those areas, and the practices and the structure of the week help us in that way.
And good. I'll add one to the good people. You're the third person that we've had on, and I'll be honest with you. I read people so I can tell if you're a douchebag or not. And you have like a super positive, good vibe about you. You're the
Thank
third
you.
guy that we've had from that gym, and each one of the guys have been super great athletes, great fighters, but even bigger, like great
Yeah, I think
people.
it's really touch on that too. Everyone wants to just, they know it's about fighting right now, but you want to build a family, a family culture that promotes, everyone wants to develop, especially as you continue rising up and keep growing, not only as a fighter, but like getting your mindset, dialed in and making sure it's a daily repetition thing. Everyone wants to just build each other up, and it doesn't feel like everyone's competing against each other. You're there just to be like, hey, we're all trying to make it in our own way. You guys are in different sport or different promotions, different weight classes, but you guys are going to make it together.
Iron
And it's like,
sharpens iron.
um, you really got to love this sport to do it. It's not like we're getting paid NFL or NBA or Major League Baseball money. Even when you're
Yeah.
making it at a high level, you really got to have a love for the sport, and you really got to have like a love for the journey and the people you meet along the way. And when you get to go to a room like Killcliff and just share the room with great people and great energy, um, it just makes the process of everything more positive and more fun. And to me, that's what it's about, just as much as it is about the results you get.
Yeah, Greg Jones is definitely set up legendary down
Dog.
there. Group of guys. Yeah, 100%. He's done an amazing job down there.
Who's obviously, especially as you keep going up, you start to gravitate towards certain people. In Killcliff specifically, are there certain influencers or mentors that you've gravitated that have helped elevate you throughout your process?
Yeah, Michael Chandler was the first person I really connected with down there because he lives in Tennessee himself. And
Okay.
he was the one who really like com- opened the doors for me at Killcliff and showed me why it was great and kind of like convinced me to go there. And when I first got there back in the Sanford days, I did a lot of work with Logan Storley. He was going on his Bellator run with Neiman and the interim fight with MVP and the wars with Amosov, and I really got to learn a lot from him. And he really got to push me in that wrestling area, which has always kind of been one of my strong suits. But he's so good in it, like it was really perfect for me. Um, I've done a lot of work with the Brazilian guys like Luque and Gilbert. I did for my past two camps. I've done a lot of rounds with them, and they got so much experience and such a wealth of knowledge. Like even just little things they say, you can pick up and just add to the tool belt. Um, the different coaches like Greg Jones and Saeed. Those guys have like spent so much time with me in developing my wrestling, and I'm just grateful for everybody. I've had like Jared Gordon, like you said, like I've known him since the Rufus Sport days. Um, when we were out there, and he's always been so positive and willing to help. It's just a room full of people that are always open to helping each other, and we just all want to see each other win, no matter what league or where it goes or what level it's on.
Well, especially those days that you're just like, man, this day just is not for me. Like it's gonna help because they're gonna be like, no, dude, I want you to remember you said you're trying to become champ. Remember you're trying to like be better than you were yesterday, and you need guys that are gonna be in there every day that want to be there because you don't want to be surrounded by the opposite of that because it's just draining. It just feels like it makes it that much harder. So like you said, you really gotta love putting your mind through that stuff because no one wants to do it just because you have to actually want to be there every single day.
It is cool seeing guys who like they know what it's like. Like you have a shitty day, and then you look over. It's like how many shitty days you think a guy like Luque or Robbie Lawler or Gilbert have gone through on the way to have the fights they've
Many.
had. So it's just cool to see guys who have been through the process and go, okay, I need to push myself here more. Okay, maybe I should do this or you know.
And it makes it easier when you know that somebody has been through that struggle and been through those wars. It makes it easier because it's one thing when somebody's like, oh, go do this or go do that. But then it's another thing when you're like, it's somebody that is a hard tested, which all of these guys are next level. Guys that have been through wars, been through battles, both inside the octagon and outside the octagon, the mental game, all of those things, that just helps listening to them that much easier and saying, hey, okay, if they did it and they're telling me I can do it, I believe that I can do it as well. That's big.
100%. I think it's invaluable. Like I can't
I
listen.
agree.
I can't listen to someone who I'm about to do something they never even
They're
done.
not
It's
doing.
You
very
see what I'm
rare where I can
saying?
or I can listen to people if they've worked with people who are doing with what I'm about to do. Like experience is so big in this sport, especially since it's new. Like it's
Yeah.
not like boxing that's like 200 years old or Muay Thai that's old or wrestling that's hundreds of years old. Like this is a fairly new sport, and so it's good to be around people that actually have done it and know what's going on and aren't just like sending you out there kind of like I don't know, like you might have made it farther than they ever made it. It's like what the
See what had happened
yeah.
was.
So
So for those, we like to uncover a little bit what you guys really go through as fighters, right? Because sometimes people be talking on this TV screen, be like, "Get up," like, "Why aren't you doing this?" Can you explain for people that either are just starting to get into the sport or want to learn more about it? What is it that you guys really go through day to day? What does a typical day look like for you at Killcliff?
it's a great day to be honest. Like one of the reasons I love Killcliff is like one, the location. Like you can't beat South Florida, the beautiful Florida weather, and you go in 10 o'clock in the morning, get a hard training session out the gate. So you've already got the hardest part of the day out the way, and then in the evening time you go back. You rest through the day. In the evening time you go back and hit either a drilling session or a strength and conditioning session. Um, and then you go home at night, eat dinner, and go to bed, and it's very repetitive, very it's very repetitive. But everyone's training session is different. Like when I was training in Memphis, which I still do, um, it's a different schedule. You got a different group of guys. Sometimes you got to rile people up more. Call your training partners more to make sure they show up at the gym. So I like to go to Killcliff during camp, so I know everything is going to be there. I'm going to have everything I need to prepare. I'm not going to have to do all this extra work when I'm under more stress to pull guys in or set up my own sessions. But I think it's different for everybody depending upon where you're at. But to me, as long as you're training twice a day, you got good coaching, you're getting your body, your mind, your soul ready. You're doing the right things out of the gym and studying. It's a good life. It's very fulfilling process. It's very exciting, especially if you love what you do. Like I love to train, I love to practice, I love to work out. So it's very fun. Um, I'd say it's much harder going to a 9 to 5 every day, and that
Judging
takes
through
real
that.
mental strength and real mental fortitude and pushing through something you don't like as much to feed your family or take care of yourself. So I'm blessed to live the life I live.
Yeah, especially with the like routine, you want to be consistent, right? They talk about if you want to, like, if you're going to go training, you need to go to the same spot, to get that mental, like to get mentally ready for the day. And so I always like to ask this question too, as you prepare to get into like the octagon and stuff like that. Do you have like a pre-fight routine or ritual that you do either week, like fight week, or right before you're about to get in the cage and face your opponent?
Yeah, I have a workout I do or a warm up I do before I do any training session, a couple stretches, a couple different little exercises to activate my body. And I talk to myself a lot. I've learned in the past from performances I haven't done good in or losses I've taken that if I'm very quiet to myself and allow my mind to wander, that's when all the doubt and negativity creeps in. So I just say positive affirmations to myself, remind myself of all the work I've put in and all the sessions I've put in, remind myself that I'm doing what I love and it's a great opportunity to compete. Um, at 26 years old, like some people don't get to ever compete out of high school, and I still get to get in the
Yeah.
cage and perform for people. And, I do a couple wrestling warm ups, sprawls and shots and pummeling. And then I hit pads and warm up all 8 of the weapons. And then I just go out there and no matter how I'm feeling, if I'm feeling great, if I'm feeling like I don't even want to fight that night, we get in there and we fight.
Yeah.
You could tell you when he asked that about the routine, I had no doubts that you had a routine. You just hearing about your mom and the little clip, I already got how your mindset is and everything is dialed in. I can
Yeah.
already I could tell you're very much a deep thinker and very analytical and planning everything out, which is
That's my
super
secret
dope.
weapon. Like some guys got speed, some guys got power, some guys are crazy athletes. Um, some guys have been doing the sport since they were walking or crawling. I've always had my mind in my heart, so that's what I lead with.
Wow. Wow. All right, let me ask you a question. What goes through your mind when you're fixing, like we talked about leading up to a fight? What goes through your mind when you get inside that octagon and the cage is getting ready to close? What is going through your head?
Like sometimes I'm like, man, what the hell am I like? What am I doing here right now? Like shit. Or it's like, man, it's already here. Like, and then I just see my opponent and I'm like, all this other stuff, it's really just about me and him. Like that's all it's about. Me and him, me scoring points, me hitting him more than he hits me winning more wrestling scrambles than me doing damage, whether it's elbowing him, kneeing him, kicking him. Um, it's just about me defeating the man in front of me. And we're in an octagon like I'm in every single day of my life. I'm in a cage constantly. If I'm in Florida, I'm in a cage. If I'm in Memphis, I'm in a cage. If I'm in Milwaukee or California or wherever I'm training at, I'm just in a cage and there's a guy in front of me and I got to beat him. So once I just focus on that and don't make it about what canvas is on the floor or what logos on my gloves or the lights or who's announcing me, then I get comfortable because I've been doing that for 10, 11 years now. So
It's always crazy. I was telling Albert, I had 2 amateur MMA fights back probably 10 years. I'm an old man. I had a midlife crisis at like 35 and said, oh, I want to go try I want to go try this out. I had to. And it was like we went through the fight camp. We had all of this stuff planned. And I'm like, okay, I got everything dialed in. And then I got in there and they closed and they're like, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, what was I supposed to do again? Holy crap. I don't want to get knocked out. My daughter's in the stand. I ain't
yeah,
trying to get knocked out. My friends are over here. I can hear them yelling. Oh,
yeah,
I'm excited because they're yelling, but man, I ain't trying to lose in front of them. And then
yeah.
I'm looking over at this dude, and all 3 rounds, I ran across the ring. There was no organization. I ran across like it was tear the club up thugs. Like there was no, but that's just kind of, I've always been a controlled chaos type guy. When people ask me about my jujitsu, or they ask me, I say it's controlled chaos. If you ask me to teach you a class on what it is that I just did, 9 out of 10 times, I would be lying to you if I told you that I could do it. I'm just was gifted with some Southern athleticism,
There you
and
go.
I grew up in the trenches, so I just make it do what it do.
It's
That's
a
all
fight at
I
the
know.
end of the day, like look at DDP.
Yeah,
He's not the most
exactly.
technically sound, but he's strong and he's good everywhere and he's got a good head on his shoulders and he's got a strong will and you can win world titles with that.
Clearly, yeah, I
Exactly,
just beat
exactly.
Izzy with that a little too easy.
So let me ask you a question. With the popularity of MMA, what would be the advice you would give somebody that was wanting to start an MMA career?
Um, I always tell the fighters I work with at my gym, like the most important thing about MMA to me is like, do you show up to train twice a day and do you study the sport? Like if you consistently show up to train, like there's a guy on my team, he's 50 something years old and he just had his first MMA fight. It went to
Wow.
decision. He didn't get his hand raised. Um, but he's 50 years old and he got in the cage and competed in front of people. But a lot of people didn't want him to fight, but I said, let him fight. He's here more than the young guys are. He's here twice a day. He studies the sport. He asks questions. He cares. And anytime someone like that wants to get in the cage, I tell them they should. It's an experience uh, that I think every man should experience that once in their life, just to know what they're capable of and just to know what's out there. And it's a very like primal thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest thing is what you said, showing up. Uh, and not just in the gym, but it transcends into life, because we see so many times everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be an influencer. Everybody wants all of the easy route, right? And sometimes when you train, especially MMA, it's one of those things that like you can make excuses of injuries. You can make excuses of I've got something else to do. You can make excuses of whatever the case may be, but it's actually showing up. It's actually stepping outside of your comfort zone. It's actually having the moral fortitude to say, hey, you know what? No matter what it is, I'm going to show up and give my best, and whatever happens is going to happen.
100%. You can't control results. You can only control like what you do. And I always say like the cage it never lies. It's the chamber of truth. So whoever you are, however
I
you've
like
been
that.
living in and outside your training, however like whatever's going on in your life, the cage is going to show it. And
Ooh.
that's why
Dropping
you got to live
bombs.
right. Um body, mind and spirit and work hard and love it. If you don't love it, it'll show too. Um,
Woo.
So yeah,
Taking them to church on a Thursday, brother. You got me over here wanting to raise my hands. Woo, sweet Jesus. Look
you need
at
another
it.
fight.
Look at it. I know, right? I know.
I know that's the thing too, is people don't realize like how powerful it is to just get that positive momentum, you know? Like even if you just show up day in and day out, eventually it's gonna get there. And I think we put too much pressure on getting those big chunks of wins when it's just like you said, just showing up daily and doing that little bit of studying. You're gonna notice it in a month or two or three, but you probably won't notice it day to day, right? And so I think it's funny how we overestimate the time we could do something in a week, but we underestimate how much we can get done in a year, you know? And
And it's like, what do
it's
you
pretty
do it
cool to
for?
see
Do
that.
you do it? Do you do it just for the result of getting your hand raised or getting the belt, or
Right.
do you do it for the people you meet along the way or the man you become by the end of it? Like I'm not the
Right.
same man I was when I started fighting and or even wrestling, and I know I wouldn't be who I am today without combat sports.
Wow.
It's epic, huh? That's
Yeah.
amazing. So we know that you have a legendary start to your career. All right. I know you said you trained a lot in your amateur career, and then now you're 6-0 professionally. Fucking awesome. And you're coming off your PFL debut nonetheless.
Hmm.
So I kind of wanted to, can you tell us how it was being a part of that in Nashville? Wasn't too far from your hometown, and just making a statement coming off in the PFL.
It was great. It's what every fighter who dedicates themselves dream of. I've always said I don't care what league it is or what promotion. I just want to be in big fights on a world class stage, competing for championships and getting compensated. Where I feel good about it, and I fought on a world class stage against a great opponent, and I was compensated great. So I was living my dream that night, and it was a hard fight. It didn't start out the way a lot of my fights start out. Um, I took some big punishment early, some big shots. I got dropped. I got hit with some heavy ground and pound at points, but that's the fight game, right? Like it doesn't go the way you want it to go, but you
Never.
can't just lay over and quit. So I was I was remember bleeding out my head because I got cut, and I thought, man, if I get up from this round, I'm gonna get this guy. And one of my favorite fights is Henry Cejudo and Marlon Moraes. When Marlon was
Yeah.
tearing him up in that first round, kicking him, and then Henry just bit down on his mouthpiece, and he just got in the paint with it and ended up finishing him. So
Yeah.
Another,
I knew in that second round I had to put my foot on the gas, and that's what I did. And in the third round, I was able to land more damaging shots. 25 hammer fists to the head, knees to the body. Um, Not get controlled on the floor. So I was very happy with it. It was my closest fight, my hardest opponent, but I learned so much from that. I grew so much from it, and I was, a lot of my friends and family were like traumatized because they were there front row and they were seeing the shots I was taking, and it was good to show them like, hey, it doesn't always go like I don't always just smash somebody and
Mhm.
that's it. Like this is a battle and this is a war and everybody comes to win. So I was happy I was able to show my resilience and my heart in that one, and all props to Nick Meck. He brought the best out of me.
Yeah, it was good. It was an epic fight. Yeah, it
Well,
was.
especially as you keep leveling up too, the competition only gets better, right? So
Hmm.
there's gonna be days where you're gonna just get the kick, like you're gonna just get beaten up for like a round, and then you got to feel like, okay, my back's against the wall. What am I gonna do, and how are you gonna show up? And so that's just amazing that on a big promotion, doesn't matter where it is, you're still gonna show up and stuff like that too. Are you gonna be signed by the PFL, or have you like talked about making that a part of your next part of your journey?
Yeah, everything with that is like up in the air. It could go. They could choose to go multiple different ways with it. Um, I'm just staying in shape, staying ready, and all I know is for certain because you never know anything in this game. There's so many. Like I thought I was fighting for a CFSC title, and then
Right.
that got scratched, and then I got in the PFL. So I never know what's going to happen. I just know my next fight's going to be big. It's going to be exciting, and I'm going to work my ass off in it to put on a good show.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's wild. So you talk about a lot of just a lot of adversity that you go through. What is it that motivates you to train and compete day in and day out?
My family's a big part of it. My wife and my child, uh, or two children. I got a second boy on the way, and
Congrats.
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. And taking care of them, and showing them the importance of being resilient and working hard and having character and tough moments, and financially providing for them. That's really what motivates me at this point. When I was younger, of course, it's about glory and legacy. Um, but now I just value in MMA just the person I've become while doing it and the process of it, and just providing for them. And of course, performing is so fun, and feeling the crowd's energy is always awesome. And just all the great people I've met on the journey. That's really what motivates me. And I love the lifestyle of being a fighter and training, and just being with the guys in the gym and learning from the vets, learning from the coaches, and then helping out the young guys who come in behind me now. The whole process and life of it, I think I'll always be involved in combat sports in some facet.
Sweet.
Well, especially as you keep evolving too, there's something that like you learn more and more about yourself. Can you tell us like what is the biggest lesson that you've gained out of like transforming yourself from a wrestler to purely mixed martial arts?
Um, just how strong I can be when I apply myself. How strong I can be when I'm in a tough situation. Um, I'd never been in a fight before I had my first MMA fight. So I didn't even, when I was training for my fight, this is the first time I'm getting punched in the face. This is the first time I'm punching somebody in the face. And all that was so weird for me. And
Yeah.
my coach, Rosendo Sanchez, I did a lot of work in the boxing with him. I would live out in his house in California, and stay with him for weeks on end and work on the boxing. And then I'd be like, man, I'm not kicking nobody. That shit hurts. It hurts getting kicked. It hurts throwing kicks. And then I met my coach, Gregory Choplin. And I started working with him. He'd fly to Memphis. I'd be in Miami with him working. And then I started loving kicking people and loving throwing knees and elbows. And these are all things I never like in my head. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. And so just the process of knowing that, hey, when I really push myself and push my mind, like I could do all these great things. And that's just been my favorite part of it, surprising myself with the opportunities and the situations this sport has put me in.
It's funny you say that about never having a fight. It always reminds me of when Mike Tyson said, everybody wants to be a fighter till you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
Most of the time, people run after that. Kudos to you for saying, hey, you know what? I already signed on the dotted line to do this. We're going to make it do what it do.
Yeah, 100%. You put your name on that paper, barring any like health stuff, you show up and you compete to the best you got. Whether you're mentally
Yeah.
there or not, it don't matter. You put your
You
name
there to
on there,
show up.
so
Yeah.
you show up.
Exactly. Let me ask you a question. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions of fighters?
Just like that they're crazy people, I would say. Like, I know back in the day before I started fighting it, everyone thought it was like tattooed up white guys doing it.
Just bored.
Yeah, it's like just that we're crazy. Like, fighters are normal. They feel normal things. They have families. They have people that love them. And they just are pursuing what they love to do. And if anyone's ever grappled or done jujitsu or had a good sparring session and they felt what those feelings you feel when you do those things, like, it's understandable why people want to get into fighting.
What number two misconception is that y'all get paid $1 million per fight.
Yeah, 100%. I've been blessed to do this. I know a lot of people that um got to work a lot of jobs and still find a way to practice. And um, I've been lucky to not be forced to have to live that kind of lifestyle. I can focus on training a lot, and I still work when I have free time like now. But a lot of people got to do a lot of work and train and juggle this, and they have a family and all those different things. So, and then you got to pay people. You got to pay your management. You got to pay the gym. You got to pay whatever extra coaches or training partners are helping you out. You got to pay
Traveling expenses.
traveling, hotels, um, just whatever extra comforts that you like or enjoy. They're not free, and
No.
but you definitely get what you pay for. I say, you get what you pay
Yeah.
for.
I always tell people whenever people, oh, he gets paid X amount of dollars. He's only fighting 15 minutes. He's fighting 10. I'm like, do you know that they work 8 to 12 hours a day training? They have to eat a certain way. They have to live a certain lifestyle. They have to pay coaches, just as you said, the whole gambit of what on top of all of that, Uncle Sam ain't never gonna not take his. So
Uncle
on top
Sam,
of all of that,
families, your wife, your kids,
she's
they still
on
need
target.
diapers and food.
Yeah, and she's on that target run while you're out on fight camp, so you get back.
And they don't care if you're cutting weight. They don't care if you got to train. They're like, we got to eat too.
Yeah. Exactly.
You got to take care. It's rough, but it's fun.
Yeah. No, I know you've got kids, personal life. We just kind of hit on all of that. I know it can be hard to balance everything outside of training, fighting, all of that. When you do get time to yourself, what are some of your hobbies or interests?
I love history. I love art, like books, film. Um, Sometimes I go to the plays with my family, my wife, my mom. But I really just love being with my family. I take so much time away from my wife and my kids to go do training camps and to train whenever I need to give the sport, because the sport is like your wife too. You got to give the sport its time, or
You
you'll
have
have
to give it
bad
love.
performances. Um, so I just spend every time I don't have to work or train, I try to give to my wife and my children, and I always just pray that I get the best results to be able to provide for them, and I pray that they'll forgive me one day from all the time I take away from them, because they don't get their husband or they don't get their dad um, as much as some people would get it. But my wife's a
It'll
really
all be
strong
worth it.
woman, and
Mhm.
she holds the house down, and she does a great job with my son. And so I'm always grateful for her, and I wouldn't be this far without her.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah, it'll be all worth it too once you provide for your family that much down the line. So you're doing an amazing job. It's not easy. Life is not easy in general, let alone as a fighter and doing everything that you need to do to survive and make sure you prepare yourself and your family for the future. So we see you. We see you.
And one of the big things is that I've noticed is the best fighters. Not to say it, but the best fighters have strong women behind them, or I shouldn't even say behind, beside them.
Mm-hmm.
Because man, it's hard on you, but it's definitely one of those things on them as well. So kudos for both of you. For you putting in the work on your side, her putting in the work on her side, and being able to provide for your kids, man. It's awesome, and it's only gonna give them bigger and brighter things to look forward to in the future.
And just great people behind you too. I always say like an arsenal of people that give me different things and push me in different ways and support me. We had like I don't know how many beds, like a 16 bed Airbnb that was like 4 stories in Nashville,
Wow.
and it was just full of people, family, friends, coaches, teammates, all just being on the journey with me to fulfill my dreams. And that's just as fun as all of it too, being able to bring all these people together in an event and make them proud. So I have so many people behind me pushing me and holding me up and helping me, and I'm so grateful that God has put all them in my life.
And I think that's a testament to the man that you are. In only the 51 minutes, I can already tell that's a testament to who you are and the person and the vibe that you are. And so, you know, blessed you are, but also they are blessed to have you because you can tell you're a blessing to many people.
Thank you, brother. It means a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. So let me ask you a quick question. I've got 5 kids. You said you're fixing to have your second. So how has being a father changed your mindset, not just in the octagon per se, but in life in general?
It's changed me completely. It's not all about me anymore. It's about my son and my sons and my wife, and it's about, you know, the life I live has to be for them, to serve them as I lead them. Leading people means you have to serve them. And so I always have to consider them and what they need in everything I do. And that's a good thing because it usually keeps you on a good path if you're looking to serve your wife and your children versus if you're just serving yourself. So,
I,
and then, you know, I pray to God to um, always keep my heart in a good place and give me wisdom when I'm foolish and give me strength when I'm weak. And with that, I feel at peace to just do my best. And sometimes I do great, sometimes I fail, but that's all part of it too. And we love each other despite all that. And they've just, you know, they're making me more of a man, just like I'm trying to raise them to be good man, but they're really helping me be the man I should be. And I hope one day when they have children, they'll see the same shit. Like, oh man, like now I get what it's like to be a father and lead a family, and they'll be better men for it.
and do it the right way. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Well, you definitely got a lot of attributes from your mom too. She definitely raised you well because it's going to trickle down to them as well. And that's the thing. We're building the legacy right now, and you just don't realize it until I'm not a father yet, but I can't wait till the day I
Oh
am.
boy, go get it.
I know. I'm excited for it, but right now I'm just wanting to build this stuff, you know, that we're doing right now and share this story because we want to hear more about it too. So I'll let it off to you.
Okay, we'll go ahead. We know it's been a long session. We want you to enjoy the sunshine. We'll kick it off with this, and if you need to take a second to think about it, it's pretty deep. If today was your last day, what is it that you want Kevin Pease to be remembered for?
That I gave my best. Everything I did, every success, every failure, and everything in between, I just gave my best with whatever was my best at that time. Sometimes my best can achieve great things. Sometimes my best is just the lowest thing on earth. But I just gave my best with whatever I had.
I love what you said is giving your best even when it becomes a failure, because a lot of times we look at not getting the results that we want, or we look at those things as negative, or we make those things into something they're not. And one of the things that I've kind of done with my faith, similar to you, is I look at all my trials, tribulations, and my failures, and honestly, those are bigger to me than any one of my success stories, because God gave me those things as ways and stepping stones to go to that next level to get those successes. And it'll be peaks and valleys because nothing is easy and none of us are perfect. We're all, you know, made of sin, but it's about, like you said, choosing to get up every day, be and do better, and try to glorify God. That to me is all I really care about. And so kudos to you for mentioning that, because a lot of people don't.
And we all have greatness and horrific things in us. You know, I believe we can
Right.
do anything that any human has ever done. So we can be horrible, we can be disgusting, we can be pathetic, and we can also be great and powerful and amazing people. So it's just all on you to choose what you want to be when you wake up every day.
Wow.
Yeah, you got to show up every day. You got to be grateful, and I think that's the biggest thing too. Is just like, it doesn't matter what
Being
the result
grateful.
is. Yeah, just we talked with Jared the other day, Gordon, about it, and he was just like, man, whenever I feel like I'm just wanting more and more and more and craving more and more and more, it's just that's when I feel like I'm not my whole self. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm taking away too, is just like just showing up, and I know I'm gonna be doing it as long as I put my faith in God and make sure I put myself out there and just do what I need to do, and it'll leave the rest up to everything else, you know? So,
'Well, man,
100%.
I know you probably got a training session. We want to thank you so much of coming on. I'll be honest, you already had me as a fan of you as a fighter, but I'm not even going to lie to you. Next level with me for the person, the man, the father, the husband, all of those things that you are, and just hearing your energy and vibe. If you had a 10 out of 10 fan on me, I don't know if the level goes past 10, but it's at a 20. So I appreciate you so much for all that you do inside, and even bigger than that, outside of the octagon, for your family, and to glorify God. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.